Is it on? Is it? I presume it's on the Cool Spiritualist Church page.
It is on. Well, we are live now. We are on my page, the Paul Spiritualist Church page, and our YouTube channel.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
We are everywhere. So, good evening, very good evening, and welcome to our Saturday night Lyceum evening. These Lyceum evenings have evolved over the last few years from specialist chats that we used to have to more regular talks now with different people, different aspects of spiritualism, and it is about spiritualism. So great pleasure to be talking to a wonderful gentleman who I had a great pleasure of hosting here at Paul a little while ago, Mr. Craig Morris. Craig, good evening, sir.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. How's it going?
Absolutely wonderful. Very busy, like yourself, which is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Craig is, we were just talking before we went live tonight, and I'm beginning to sound old now because I've been aware of Craig, I think since that first time at Bath Road when I had no idea who you were and I was working.
Yep.
And at the end of the evening, you said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And I went, "No." And you went, "I'm Craig Morris." And I went, "Well, I'm Lawrence Saville," you know, being cocky. But
yeah.
But I've seen Craig's career progressing, and it is absolutely beautiful. And this may jar a little bit with some people, but one of the things I really love with your work, Craig, is your dedication to the churches and centres as well. So often we see names elevate beyond the availability of our, the churches and centres where we started, are they not?
Yeah, 100%. I was just chatting to another friend the other night, Philip Solomon, a medium from the West Midlands, really, really nice guy, and we were talking about the churches, and I always remember years ago, Colin said to me, because whatever you do, Craig, because however far you go with your mediumship, whatever you do, never forget your churches. And we've always been brought up with the idea of you never forget where you come from. And of course, like you said, Spiritualist Church is certainly for me as well. Spiritualist Church was where I first started. They gave me my first platform, and I'd never look back. Never look back. I'd still even to this day, I still serve a church, and I love it. It is literally, maybe a bit of a cliche, but like going home. It's just
Yeah, no, you're quite right. It's the cradle of where we started our craft and our work from. And from all these things have grown. But as I said, I always admire that with you. I mean, you are now an international medium, are we not? And tutor, which is absolutely brilliant. You're very shortly off to Switzerland, correct?
Switzerland, yeah, next weekend, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I think it's for me it's great because it's obviously it's part of the journey, it's part of the experience. I mean, and I get to visit so many wonderful places just in this country alone. Like I said, we were saying earlier on, I was down there a little earlier in the year down with you guys, and I've been to lots of other places across the UK, and it's brilliant, and I love it. But when you get that opportunity to go overseas, it's just different because the other thing is, it's like, it's an experience. I love traveling anyway, so I like seeing new places. That's something I've always liked. So the fact that I get to go out there and work and do what I love, well, it's two birds, one stone sort of thing. So it's phenomenal. It's experience, isn't it? It's part of. I always say to people, if you ever get an opportunity, embrace it, take it, and go for it. You'll take something away from it. So yeah.
Very true. One of my favourite sayings. I said, "There is no failure."
No,
there is no failure. When you do things, you don't fail. You learn. You grow. Yeah. That's what they're there for.
Absolutely. And we're always evolving. So yeah,
definitely. Well, tonight was specifically arranged when you were down with us physically. That you wanted to take tonight because of the remembrance aspect as well. which is absolutely brilliant, because Remembrance with our movement is one of the cornerstones, isn't it? You know,
Absolutely. I remember when I was living in the Midlands, I got asked a few times. I used to go to different churches to do the Remembrance service, and I used to love it. You know, I used to absolutely love it, and for me, it was always an opportunity, because when you talk about the whole, you know, and I know that when it comes to Remembrance Day, you know, we're remembering, you know, those people that never got to come home, but we're also remembering, obviously, the people that did come home. But, you know, the theme of it, of course, is remembrance. And, you know, it's what we do on a daily basis when we do this. You know, you've got your service tomorrow morning, you know, in the church there, and obviously lots of other churches across the land as well. And and we do it every day. Every time we do a service, every time we do a demonstration or a private reading, we're doing the remembrance. You know, it's because you know, what we're doing is we're remembering our loved ones. We're going down memory lane. We're talking about the good times, the treasured times, the happy times that we had with our loved ones when they were here. And of course, you know, so it's on a daily basis. We're talking about remembering, and you know, it's giving that respect where it's due as well.
Very true. And Remembrance service here at Poole has always been a very special time. My dad, when he was minister here many years ago, was ex-services. So, and we always noticed it was, when we were growing up as kids, we probably didn't quite understand, but the mood for him would go down for the actual day. He would go quieter and withdrawn. And of course, you know, with youth, you don't understand that. But as you got older, you suddenly started to link into that and really understand that. And that tradition has carried on through me, because the Remembrance service, we do quite a fair bit of charity work here. And there are a number of forces and ex-forces charities that we actively support. And tomorrow's service, for instance, we've got 3 ex-forces will be part of. No mediumship, no evidential mediumship tomorrow. You've got 364 days of the year to have a message. Tomorrow's energy is all about that remembrance and healing time, and including from our own church family of forces experienced people to take part of that. It's a huge honour for us to be able to host it. And that's reciprocated as well. It's an amazing energy of those taking part tomorrow is just amazing. Absolutely.
And you know, the other thing is as well, because of course, I don't know about you, but I've certainly noticed it when I've gone to other churches where, you know, people are actually asking, because I've had quite a few messages this year off people before I've gone to do a demonstration, and they're saying, you know, can we bring our children? You know, is there an age limit and all of this? And of course, in church, I'm like, no, they're always welcome. You know, so and what's happening is, so put aside for this fact, just for a second, you know, that somebody's bringing their child to a spiritualist church for the first time. Put that aside just for a second. And what they're actually doing is they're bringing them in to introduce them to this world of spiritualism and spirituality, but particularly on a remembrance service as well. You know, they're also learning more about it. Do you know what I mean? So they're hearing about other people's experiences, you know, and I'm sure in the congregation there are people that will remember their loved ones who have fallen. You know, somebody knows somebody where it's connected of who was in the war. And I think for youngsters like that to be around that and to be around those memories, I actually think is brilliant, because of course, even though they weren't around when it all happened, they were still affected, if you like, because of what happened. Because, as they say, you know, somebody gave their yesterday for our today. I think that's right. Yeah. And it's, you know, had that have not happened, well, that child might not even be around. So it's good that they have that opportunity to listen to those stories as well. So
definitely. And, you know, the stories of the comradeship, not only for those actually engaged in fighting, but also the spirit behind. We've got a lovely gent, old Ted, who's 92. I called him 93 the other week and got told off. But he was a child evacuee during the Second World War. and he will be sharing his experience. You know, and this is history living today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just the whole, I mean, for me, the whole, my dad, I mean, you probably saw it. I shared a photo yesterday of my dad, and you know, he was in the army, and he served, and he years ago got to the last post at Lichfield Cathedral, and somebody got the shot, somebody got the photo of him, and I show it out every year because it's one of them things that's always going to be remembered, you know. And I think even, I mean, every time my dad calls me, I've actually got his ringtone as the last post when he calls me, so I know obviously who it is that's calling. But it's I don't know, you can't quite put your sort of finger or hand on it as to what it is about remembrance. And I love it, I do. And you know, thinking about it, the other thing is where I used to live in Great Worley, I just noticed my mum was popped on. In Great Worley, and I'm sure it's the same in lots of places as well, but it is, where lots of people from the village all get together. You know, and I think, you know, for that one, you know, for that short period of time where everybody's together, it's great because you kind of get to see people that you haven't seen. So there's the, you know, for ages, or it's the one time of the year that you get to see them and say hello and whatnot. So it's just about sort of bringing people together at the same time. So I think, and that's what we're about. I think it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, and honouring our predecessors. I always remember there was a moment in the church one day. One of the ladies used to come to the church quite regularly. Her husband's name is Fritz. So no prizes for guessing where Fritz came from.
Yeah.
And Fritz never came to the church. He would wait outside and pick her wife up. Anyway, one day he came into the church and my dad was in the hall, and being of a similar age, they were talking. And it just went into, you know, war experience. And it turned out that my father said he was at Arnhem, and he went, oh, he said, so was I. And do you know what? There was this stillness and this energy that I have never felt before or since, of this huge mutual respect. You know, these are two men taken from their lives, had a gun in their hand, and were told what to do. And all those years later, through being on each on their opposing sides of the river, to meet up again, it was absolutely incredible. That energy, I just said, never felt before or since. But it was this huge respect for each other.
Yeah.
You know, and you just think, wow, absolutely wow.
Brilliant. But, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, your mum's in?
Yes. Yeah. It's quite a few, actually.
Hello, Jeanette.
Evening, Mother.
So you have, as I say, your career has been absolutely fascinating, and my version, you know, you're really in your own power now. You're really into Craig Morris the man, Craig Morris the medium. And that is actually beautiful to see, and seeing your teaching as well, as you shared here at Paul, you quite justifiably, along with your demonstrations. Absolutely loved your demonstrations, and people love you. There's quite a lot of fans in here tonight. I've got Craig Morris's fan page up by the looks of it.
I think when you years ago, when I was I worked for a travel company, and I remember I kind of swapped and changed different jobs. I was, you know, I was a travel agent. And when I worked for the co-op, I was a funeral director. You know, I was obviously cabin crew. You know, so I've done lots of different things. And I remember one day when I was in the office and I was talking to one of the trainers, Lisa, and she said to me, she goes, "Do you know what, Craig?" She goes, or she called me Morris. She said, she goes, "Do you know what, Morris?" She goes, "One day you'll find something that you like doing and you're good at, and you'll stick to it." And because I just said at that point, I said, I've no idea what I want to do. No idea. I kind of did. If I could have flown an aeroplane, I would have done that, but I never had the money for it. It was ridiculously expensive. And then, of course, this happened, and I had no intention of going like professional or anything as a medium. I just wanted to do it to be able to talk to my granddad. And, you know, it was one of those things that just happened, just evolved, and everything it was just almost like a gambol effect. And even the times where I thought, oh, do you know what, when I was struggling financially doing this, to begin with, I just thought, I can't do this, I need to go to work. I'd go and get another job. And then I just remember one day I'd gone back into another travel agent job, and I sat in the office at the back on my first day, and I just heard a friend of mine from the Spirit Wood, he come forward and he just said, "You won't be here for long." And I was like, okay. And then literally, I think I was there all but 2 or 3 weeks. And it wasn't the company, the people. They were all lovely. It was great. It just weren't meant. I've been there, done that. It wasn't what I'm meant to be doing, and that was it. And somehow there's always something that happens, or there's something that crops up that basically shows me and says, "This is where you belong. This is what you're meant to do." And any time in the past where I've talked about going to get another job, my dad just sort of, well, I won't say what my dad says because there's a couple of cultural words who thinks I'm a bit of a silly sod to think about going for anything else. He said, "This is what you're meant to be doing." And I think when you enjoy and you have a passion for what you do, it's brilliant. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
That is so true as well, you know, because we do see, and I'm not decrying this at all, but we do get the approaches of, "I want to be a medium," or "I've been sat in circle or doing whatever for X amount of time and it's still not working." What, you know, because it's got to be when we are ready.
Yeah,
you know, it's not something we can demand.
Yeah, I think you know, when I hear people sort of say that they want to be a medium or that they want to evolve their abilities, I'm like, yeah, brilliant, that's great. And I just say, why? You know, what's the purpose behind it, or what's the intention behind it? And like you would have heard me talk about it on the workshops. I always say to people, before we do anything, set your intentions. You know, before I do a demonstration, I'll go and sit in the quiet for a bit. I'll have some music on just to relax and sort of begin to sort of tune in, you know, spirit radio. And I always, if anybody ever sees me doing it, but sometimes, well, every time, I always end up just sort of going out for a little wander wherever I am. I just go and stand somewhere in the quiet, mostly where people can't see me. And in my own, I just send up a little thought, a little prayer, if you like. Yeah. And that's me setting my intentions for the private reading or the services, the dems that I'm going to do, and I do it every time. And it's kind of like basically saying to the spirit world, right, you know, when you come through, you know, yes, you know, you want the evidence to be good, and that's naturally part of what we do, but make the evening uplifting for everybody, even for those that don't get a message as well. You know, so there's you know, so that's what I mean by that intention. So it's I love it. I love it.
And you are a master at that, of getting that congregation's engagement in. Your delivery, your presence, your looks. Come on, you're young, you're good looking. All us other mediums, we're old.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But you know, you have got that engagement value with your personality, you know, because your personality when you're up there is just like, wow, you know, you're on this guy. But the quality of your work, most importantly, I am going through just a little bit of a time at the moment about mediumship being seen as an entertainment. And you know, and some of the posts coming out, and I just think, really, is that where we want to be going as a movement? I'm not.
It may be. I remember watching an interview with Colin years ago now, and he was asked about the entertainment and part of this and this and this, and he turned around. He said, "Listen," he said, "it may be entertaining, but it's not entertainment." And I think, you have to look at it as that as well, because, yes, I was in the Midlands just recently. My mum came with me. We went to Oldbury Spiritualist Church. Never been there before. Went there, and it's a lovely church. The congregation that were there were brilliant. They were up for a laugh and a giggle. But still, it's really about knowing where you can have that laugh and that giggle. But it's also about still remembering, and you hear me say it as well when I do my dems, but I always say to people, listen, I like a laugh and I like a giggle. I don't take life too seriously, but I certainly take the work that we do seriously, because, 1 minute we can be communicating with a grandmother that was like Mrs. Brown on this side of life, but the next we're communicating with a child who's passed at a young age, and we're passing that message on to a mother. So, you've kind of got to have that balance. So, and also really part of it is when you've got maybe new people that are in the congregation, or they've never been to a church or even to see a meeting before, you kind of want them to understand and understand the basis that actually it's not all like, doom and gloom, and it's not all sort of like, weird and strange things happening. It's a natural phenomenon. It's a natural ability of life. We connect with our loved ones. That's what we do. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I would never see it as entertainment. There used to be a place that I used to go to, and on their posters, they always used to call it an evening of entertainment with spiritualist medium and whoever it was going to be. And I used to hate it. I used to say, no, it's not entertainment. And sadly, the sad thing is that some people are probably listening now and thinking, hang on, but your poster states for entertainment purposes only. Sadly, there's a legality to it that we have to. Otherwise, theatres and venues like that I go into won't entertain the idea of it. I mean, like, the little brochures that you go into, the little booklets that the theatres have, you have to, it has to be put there as well. And it's like, it's not. But sadly, that's just the legal side of things, if you like. So, but.
And that's it, some of the venues you work quite large theatres and auditoriums, and they've got to abide by, the word of law. But,
absolutely.
We shouldn't read too much into that, because I've got a packet of batteries in the kitchen. It says, do not eat.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that, I mean, in most cases, most people that go to see a medium have either been to see a medium before, or they're going with somebody that has, so they kind of have the idea of what's going to happen. But I think when we're doing what we do, you want that fun element. Don't get me wrong. You want that there. You want that, like I say, you want those laughs and giggles, because of course, as we both know, as working mediums, it helps to engage everybody together. But what it also does is it helps, keep the energy up, and that's what we need when we're working. So with that in mind, I kind of get why we have to say that when we're in those sort of things, and I kind of might see why people think it could be entertainment, but of course, it's not. No, I don't see it as that, I've got to say.
No, it is. It's that wonderful ability that where if you work your craft to its fullest extent, and I love what you said there about setting the intent. Because I'm a big one for that. People say, well, why aren't Spirit doing this, or why aren't Spirit doing that? And I'm like, well, have you spoken to them?
Yeah, exactly.
They're not stood there all seeing, all knowing, thinking, oh, what would be really good for you? I'll make this happen. They're stood there waiting to work with us, but we've got
absolutely.
to put the invitation and put the intent out there.
Yeah. Definitely, I think the intention is the is the biggest part of what we do, and especially on workshops. I mean, I remember years ago, and I often talk about this for this purpose, but I often I often say that when I'm teaching, I always say to the students, right, today, set your intentions, when we go to sit and meditate, make sure you put your intentions and your thoughts up, just send it as a thought. And of course, the spirit world will work with you and all of this. But years ago. It was one of my first workshops, but yeah, in the earlier days when I started them, there was a lady. I was at a church. A lady had arrived, and she hadn't even put her bags down. And she walked in, and she just said to me, "She goes, hi, Craig." She goes, I'm quite new to this, or I sit in circle and this and this, but I don't see the spirit world. I don't hear the spirit world. I can't feel the spirit world and all of this." And just like that, the first thing I said was to the organizer, "Do you want to get a refund for this lady?" And she just looked at me as if to say, "Why?" I went, "Right." I said, "Let's start again." I said, "So you've come in tonight to do the workshop." I said, "I understand that you may, whether or not you feel that you're struggling with it or not, I don't know. But when you work as a medium, you've basically cleared out all of your senses of, seeing, hearing and feeling. And when you're telling yourself you can't, and when you tell yourself you can't, you're never going to, especially with that mindset." I said, "So when you're coming in with that intention, it's not going to happen." I said, "Whereas now, if you walk back into the door with the intention of, right, I am going to see the spirit world, I am going to hear the spirit world, I am going to feel the spirit world. It may not happen straight away, but it will happen." It's like going to the gym. Somebody that wants to bench press 100 kg, you can't just walk into the gym and say, "Right, I'm going to do it." Having the mindset there, definitely, and eventually it will happen, but you've still got to build those muscles to get to that 100 kg. So we know it's not going to happen overnight. And it's the same with mediumship. You've still got to exercise those muscles within your mind as a medium, so you have that awareness and you know what works for you and what doesn't. And by having that intent, then what it does is it allows you that pathway of like, right, okay, let's go for it and let's do it. So that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, hugely. And it's getting that over to people about not being passive with their connection to the spirit world.
Yeah,
it's got to be an active communication. Unfortunately, I have a very visual mind. When I hear things, it's like a film starts going in my head. And when you were saying about bench pressing 100 kgs, I've just seen a variety of mediums that I know on the bench. It's not pretty. Anyway, moving on rapidly.
Oh, blimey. Excuse me.
We got the lovely Arisha, who's back on her feet after being hospitalised. So bless your heart, Arisha. Nice to see you back on your feet.
Your name has been in my healing book, Arisha. I've been writing your name in.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that you're back on the mend, which is good.
Oh yeah, she's getting feisty again. That was coming back in the other day on the phone call. So here we go. But she's just saying, having seen you work, Craig, I know you always work with respect, but also with humour. I mean, we do have we've got quite outgoing personalities, but similarly, and I might be setting myself up to sound a bit weird here, and I don't know what's going to be more weirder than talking to dead people, but although I have this very extrovert personality, and when I'm doing things and working and demming and chairing, etc., people know that personality. But there is a side to me that is actually quite a shy, reserved person as well.
Yeah, I get that absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when you're doing what you do, whether you're somebody, whether or not we do what we do as mediums, or if you're somebody that's like a comedian, a singer, whatever it might be, you might be somebody that is quite shy, in the public sort of thing. But when you're up there, it's just like you're stepping. The only way I can describe it, I don't mean it in this sense as though we're going to do a movie or anything, but it's this feeling of like stepping into character. It's like, right, when you're up there, obviously you chair as well. That isn't something that I do. So it's like, right, so tomorrow morning, for example, it's like in your mind, right, today I'm the chairperson. So this is what's going to happen. I know I've got to do this, this, and this, and this. So that's the mindset that you've got. Whereas, then during the week, you might go and do a couple of demonstrations. And then the mindset is, right, tonight I'm the medium. So I think, and you know what, it comes back down to the intention again. That's what it comes down to. But it's kind of, I think it's I don't know, you kind of go through different, because years ago, before I started doing this, before I started developing my mediumship, I always remember somebody in the family said to me, you know what, you are probably the most confident person out of anybody in our family. You know, if anybody's going to do anything, it's going to be you. Lots of other people won't. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. I said, I don't see that. I think I'm quite a shy person. Again, you know, I'd go and step in front of 100 karate students when we were doing a grading, and yeah, no problem. I'll just go and do it straight away because I know what I'm doing. But one thing I found, and here's a good point actually, as we're on this subject, I'm getting all excited now. I love it. But when you're talking about like with this, do you find or have you found that over the years of developing, the more sensitive that we become, the more like within our mediumship, that the more sensitive we become, like within our personalities as well, if that makes sense?
It does. And you just touched on a conversation that followed on from somebody's online talk. And the question posed was, do you think sometimes as mediums we grow a bit tired of it and we stop going out so much? And I put another thought on that, just saying, no, we become more discerning where we work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and this is not an arrogance based statement. It's just that we begin to understand, when I say the value of what we're doing, I'm not talking the financial value, I'm talking about that actual, what our job is, to bring about healing for both sides of life, that communication and that evidence. And, you know, you get to some places and you just like, you know what, I'm not on the same level as these people. That's the nicest way I can put it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so therefore, I'm not going to be there. And again, please, this is not an arrogant thing whatsoever.
I think it's just like anything. At the end of that, there's that, you know, there's still the aspect that we're human. Although some people might think we all have these superpowers, and it's kind of like that feeling. Do you know what I mean? And
on the road to becoming a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, for me, when it comes down to doing what we do, I think there is that. And again, a good point you made there. And I think, you know, when you go somewhere and you're like, do you know what, this just doesn't work for me. And you're thinking to yourself, it's nothing personal against anybody. It's just, you know, it's not for me. Or, yeah, do you know what, we don't meet. You know, this just doesn't work well. And the thing is that when we do what we do as mediums, you have to be comfortable where you're working, because if you're not, for me personally, I think it can affect. Even though it shouldn't. And I think, you know, when you're up on that platform, it doesn't matter where you're working and how many people you've got in front of you. At the end of the day, again, intention. The intention is you're going to connect to the spirit world. You're going to pass on those messages from loved ones in the spirit world to loved ones here. So it shouldn't really matter. But sometimes, I think, and it kind of, in a way, and I'm not going to go down this line tonight because it's just, I just can't be bothered with it about like who's better than who and all that sort of thing. But for me, and we said it before we came on tonight, I love going to watch other mediums work. It's nice to be in the congregation sometimes.
Yeah.
And when I see other mediums in the congregation, it doesn't faze me at all. It doesn't bother me. You know, it's just the way that it is. And it's just what happens. At the end of the day, they still want messages as well. But sometimes when you go, and like I say, I won't go into it too much, but there was a conversation I had, a few months ago now, with a medium that I know. And she'd gone into a church and she said, I just couldn't help but feel as though, and she told me that there was another medium that was in the congregation. And she goes, and I couldn't help but feel that they were there to try and put me off. She goes, I couldn't help it. And she said, I don't want to think that. She goes, but that was the intent, the thought in my mind, sorry. And I thought, you know what? And now talking about this, it's one of them things, and you think, you know what? When that happens, you can sort of say, or if that happens, you can just turn around and say, I'm done. And I think you have to listen to those thoughts as well, I think. So, and I don't mean that in a bitchy way or anything. It's far from it. I think, you know, it's just it's life. Not everybody's going to like you. It's a fact of life. It's just one of them. So yeah.
But yeah, and the energy, how we work. I mean, before we get to doing the actual presentation, already our awareness is spreading and spreading.
Yeah, very much so.
Back a year ago, I walked into a place I'd never been before, and I walked in through the door, and I went, "Oh, so the committee are all at each other's throats." And somebody said, "Well, who told you?" I went, "Nobody. It's here in your centre, and you need to do something about this."
Yeah.
And that was, gosh, that was like pulling teeth, that service. It seriously was. Not because I had talked myself out of it. It's like trying to listen to people where you've got a loud noise going on as well. And it's like, I'm not making this connection here as well as I can. No, I can.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that, because I had exactly the same thing at another church, and it was only afterwards that after the service, the committee sort of said, because I've known them for years, and it's a lovely church, and they'd said, can we ask you your opinion? So I kind of gave it, and I just said, listen, if I come back here again and it's like this, you can take me out your diary. I said, I won't be coming back. And I said, what you've got to remember is, and I may have said this to yourself when I was visiting you for the weekend, but I take my hat off to anybody who is on a committee in a spiritualist church. I couldn't do it. I don't have the patience for it at all. And but I take my hat off to anybody that does sit on the committee, whether you're a treasurer, booking secretary, or if you're a committee member that's just there and you're doing like other bits and pieces, because all these things need doing, and not everybody understands how much preparation. So as we're preparing as mediums, the committee members are also preparing the church ready for all of us to arrive for that service to happen. So, and I think it's trying to find the balance. And on that night, there wasn't any. And I just remember saying to the church, you've got to take away the fact that this is about you. Forget that. Whether or not you like each other or not, that doesn't matter. You're here, not for you, even though good for you for being here, for doing it and not being paid to do it. But you've got to make it about your congregation. And and I said, because they're the people that we're here for. They're the ones that keep the doors open. So you've got to listen to them as well. And it got to a point where I mean, now the church is thriving, absolutely thriving. They get good numbers in every week from what I can gather, and it's a very different place to work, and it's phenomenal. So yeah, I mirror that absolutely.
Yeah, the whole cornerstone of all our churches, centres, any business. If that love, if that dedication and that commitment to what you're actually doing is lacking, then maybe move over for somebody else. I don't get sometimes. But anyway, moving on. The lovely Sandra Mitchell Atherius. Good evening, my darling.
Hello.
And she's asking, do you believe that other mediums can block you by manipulation of energy?
No.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And I tell you why. I tell you why I say that, because for me, it's again, it must be the theme tonight when it comes to intention, because the amount of times I'm saying it. But for me, my intention when I work is like there's something in my mind. I remember watching another medium work, and he does it not every time, but when he does his little opening, spiel, like when he's explaining how he works, and he always says, sometimes I go direct and I know where I'm going, and sometimes I don't. And the mediums that are amongst us this evening that say that I should, I really couldn't care less what your thoughts are, but this is how I work, and that's it. So for me, when with that, I don't think so, no, because when you've got your intentions, for me, it would be the only way that it could happen, in my opinion. And I mean, other people, I've seen that we've got Bill and Phil and others, so obviously other mediums that are on with us tonight. So maybe they could put a thought towards it as well. But for me personally, I don't think so, because the only way that you'd be blocked, as you just put there, Sandra, or here is for me is when you're in your own mind, when you go into your own headspace, then you will, because then you're overthinking it, and all of a sudden you're like questioning, is it the spirit world, is it me? As soon as you're in that headspace, you need to just sort of stop, take a step back, and right, hang on a second. And my intention when I work is it's kind of like, right, put me in that bubble, give me the energy of the spirit world and let me just work with the people that are there, because at the end of the day, it goes back down to really is, at the end of the day, we're all, and I think it was Stefan that put it all on there, that we can all learn from each other. At the end of the day, yeah, absolutely, there it is, they've locked themselves. So I agree, and that's my thought on it as well. So no, I don't think we can. I think it's when you're allowing somebody else in that space, then you mechanically, if you like, in your mind, I think you're the one that does that because you're allowing it to happen. Whereas I think like I was down at Spirit Quest a few years ago, and of course, I think you're there next year, and obviously Bill goes as well, lots of other people, and it's a fabulous weekend. And I remember, being there, and Gordon was there, Gordon Smith, and of course, lots of people know who Gordon Smith is. He's a wonderful medium, and a great friend. And he ended up getting a message. And now afterwards, there was somebody that came up to me and said, "You've just given Gordon Smith a message." I'm like, "I know." Right. And again, I mean this politely, respectfully, right, towards whether it was Gordon, whether it was you, whether it was Phil, or but whoever it was. At the end of the day, we've all still got loved ones that we want to connect to. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, it might be Gordon Smith, a renowned medium, but he still wants to talk to his family. It's part of what it is. Now, years ago, when I first started in my earlier days, I probably would have thought, oh my God, it's Gordon Smith. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then that would be me getting to my own headspace. So that's the way I would look at it. So, yeah.
Margaret Challenger's got a lovely saying, and it's really irritating. If you're thinking, you're not linking.
It's a good shout. Absolutely. Good shout.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we're in that communication space, we're not engaging it. We're just like we're viewing a film from a distance.
Yeah,
we drop out of that energy. We latch on to something, or think of something, or get distracted by something, and we drop out of the energy, and we just need to get back into that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill's just said that as well. He's just said, totally agree. Step back, reconnect, and you go. And for me, it's all about just letting go. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. Let it be. And all of a sudden, you'll see your for any mediums that are on, you'll see your mediumship and your journey flourish in a good way. And it's just like you kind of have to just sort of forget what other people might be thinking or whatever it might be. It is what it is at the end of the day. Whereas if you just get on and do what you do, you'll be where you're meant to be. You'll have the right people around you, and yeah. So that's my sort of take on it. It's yeah. That's what I say anyway.
No, excellent. This is what these evenings are about. Just here, when mediums can actually come together and talk, because this is new for our age.
Yeah.
As we've sort of like touched upon there, I trained under quite a few of the old school mediums, and the stories of them were they would go around and watch each other work. They would sit in a circle together. They would socialize together. I'm not living in each other's pockets, but there was that engagement going on. Sadly, nowadays, in some cases, other mediums are seen as like a potential threat to income, or a challenge to your mediumship. And it shouldn't be like that. We should be able to talk just like this and go, "Oh my God, that happened to me. What a pain in the bum that is, isn't it?" When it happened, you just think, "Oh."
I think when we all, as doing what we do, we believe that we are where we're meant to be. And I think however long it takes, and I remember. So again, like yourself, I sat with. I was very, very lucky. I sat with old school mediums and very good friends, Tim, Jeanette Abbott. And Tim will always say,
You
"But it
got me into
was
so much trouble with Jeanette.
who I did."
Yes, you, Mr. Morris.
Why? Go on, tell me. What did I say, or what did I do?
You told me the nickname you had for her. I didn't know that she wasn't aware of that nickname, but when I repeated it,
I may have forgot to tell you that bit.
Oh, thanks.
And you know what the thing was that I was having this conversation last night with Steve about this, and because obviously as we were saying earlier on, he's been doing it for years, and people that he's sat with and everything, and one of the people that guided him was Eric Hatton, who gave him an opportunity to be on the platform at Stourbridge. But for me, yeah, Tim and Jeanette played a huge part in my initial development, because I sat and you know what it was. When we talk about old school, it was right. We rock up to Circle. It was every Monday. I think it was 7 or half 7. Can't remember. I think it was half 7, for 2 hours. And they would work us. They would absolutely work us. But then there'd be other weeks where we turn up and they say, right, we're going to sit, we're going to meditate, and then we're just going to sit. We're just going to sit in the circle and we'll just go with what happens. We're going to let the spirit world guide us tonight and we'll see where we go. And I'm like, exciting. I love it. And every week we turned up, and there were people that used to sit in the circle that are working mediums. There were people that used to sit in the circle that didn't want to step up on a platform, didn't want to do any private readings. They did it just for themselves. And again, the old school part is Jeanette always used to say, listen, if you miss 3 weeks without like good reason, then then you're out, because there are other people that we can offer this space to, and we need to know that you're going to be dedicated, whether or not you're going out to put it into the public or whether it's just for yourself, but there needs to be dedication to what we do. Anyhow, and that's just the way that it was. And I remember the one day, Jeanette was doing a workshop at Stafford Spiritualist Church, so I was like, yeah, I'm there. And they got double the figures. They got double the numbers of students. So Tim was available. So he came and took the other half as well. So in the morning, I sat with Jeanette, and then in the afternoon was Tim. And I sat there, and this was the first time I met Tim. And I sat there and I was working with this lovely lady, and her dad came through, and I was describing this, and this. And just as I was doing it, Tim walked past, stopped, come back, he pulled up a chair and sat next to her. And I'd said something about being in the bookies or whatever it was. And he said to me, he said, right, now ask him to take you to the front door of the bookies. You're going to do this, this, and this. And he talked me through this remote viewing message. And it was just like, how on earth, where's this coming from? And I was sort of saying, you've got a bus station over there, but it has 4 bus stops. There's a fish and chip shop over there, but that's where a car went through the window. Little things like this that were coming up. And she was like, yeah. And even I was going, huh? Where's this coming from? And it's the old school, and it was just, and for me, of course, it was the buzz, and it was that experience of being pushed by both Tim and Jeanette. And of course, even after I came out of the circle and I didn't want to leave, it was just the fact that I was getting busier and busier. And then, of course, over the years, of course, we talk about Billy. Billy's been there, and he's guided me. As I've gone out more in public, he's guided me. Of course, Colin. Can't forget Colin. And I've already mentioned Gordon. The times I've sat and chatted with Gordon about things, and Steve. Lots of people, and I've been really lucky. But for me, when it comes down to it, and where Stefan's put that there about where people just want it there and then. Yeah, I get that, but it's also your biggest lessons are going to be on that journey to get there as well. That's the thing. And I don't know who, it might have been you that said it earlier on. We never stop learning. We're always learning, always. And I think that's what, and I always say to people, whenever I do a demonstration, especially if it's like a theatre type venue, when somebody comes up to me and says that they're having experiences and they want to begin development, and they say, what do you recommend? My first words are, go to your local spiritualist church. Go to your local church, because they'll have people there that will be able to help you. The likelihood is they're going to have a circle, and go there, because you're going to learn what you need to learn. You're going to learn the basics of awareness as well. So it's, for me, it's about taking that time. And like I say, I mean, I sat in circle for years and I didn't want to leave, but that's where the core of our development is, and I think that's what people are kind of forgetting. I think maybe it's because the internet's now become not too accessible. I think that's a bit of a not quite a right statement, but where you go online, you do a course for a week, and all of a sudden you're a medium because you've got a certificate. Do you know what I mean? And there's no experience there. And when as you know, I always use my karate analogies, my martial arts analogies, and I always I always say to people, you know, the journey to becoming a black belt is part of the experience. It's what makes you stronger. It's how you evolve, you're learning. And when you get to the black belt, our senior instructor of the UK, Sensei Bob McCracken, he always used to say, right, everybody, please join me in congratulating all of these wonderful people that have just graded to their black belts. And black belts, congratulations, you are now the worst black belts in the country. Well done. And that's what, and everybody used to applaud. And it wasn't putting them down. It was just saying to them, listen, you're now a black belt. And it's kind of one of these things where you don't get your black belt, you become a black belt. And it's the same with mediumship. You don't get a certificate as such. Okay, you do get certificates, of course, because we've got the SNU and everything, but you become a medium. That's the difference. It's part of the journey of evolving.
Yeah, hugely true. You know, people say, can you teach me to be a medium? No, I can't teach you to be a medium. I can take you on the journey and open doors for you. You've got to teach yourself. You've got to experience all that. So that when you stand up there and say, I know that I have this purpose, because that is based on your confidence from your experience in your journey, not through a one-day workshop. Stephen Howard's, after a little bit of one-to-one tuition, rather cheekily, Mr. Howard. Actually, there's very interesting wordage there. How do we analyze what message they're trying to convey? I think I need to get around that. What's your thoughts?
Don't analyze it. Just feel it. Be aware of it. You might see something, and you're like, "Why am I getting this?" or "Why am I getting that?" And I'm trying to think. So a great example. So a few years ago, I was in the Midlands. I was doing a private reading, and as I was working with this lady, her father came through. Her dad came through to say hello. Anyway, as I was working, some part maybe halfway through the message, she I just sat there, and all of a sudden I was hearing on my mind. I was hearing the song "Dance with My Father" by Luther Vandross. Anyway, I turned around and I said, and she just looked at me as if to say, what's wrong? I said, well, I'm hearing this song, Dance with My Father. And she went, oh, I love that song because it reminds me of my dad. I said, I know. I said, but we already know that we've already established that it's your dad that's coming through. We know that. But so there's a reason why, there's another reason why he's given me this song anyway. So in my mind, I'm saying to him, right, show me what you mean, because I'm hearing it and I'm aware of it, but I'm not sure what it actually means. And then all of a sudden, I just saw, if anybody goes onto YouTube and you Google and you search for Dance with My Father, there's a few different versions. And one of the versions that I could see in my mind was of literally a father and a daughter dancing, and she was on her dad's feet and all of this. So as I was seeing that in my mind, I went, hang on a second. I went, do you understand your dad missed your wedding? She went, yeah, he did. Because he passed. I went, your dad wants you to know that he danced with you at your wedding. And she just broke into tears. So now I hear that song, and I know that my interpretation of that song is that the person that, and sometimes it can be a grandparent or whoever it might be, an aunt and uncle that comes through. So when I hear that song, it's like their way of saying, tell them I was at the wedding, or tell them I'm going to be at the wedding. So and that was again, it's one of those things where you don't have to, don't analyze it. You just feel it. How does it feel? What's the reason you're getting it? Because trust your gut instinct, trust your intuition is what I would say. Definitely, that's what I would say.
And that's where we need to shift from being objective to subjective.
Absolutely.
And funny enough, I was having this discussion earlier today with Bill, who's in the room. And I said, objective is, I've got a cup here, it's got a handle, there's an indent on the bottom, it's quite wide at the top, narrow at the bottom. Yeah. Subjective is, I've got this cup here and I absolutely love it because it was one of the last things my mum bought before she passed the spirit. She bought this little mug treat and this is the last one. So suddenly we've gone from talking about a cup to bringing that cup alive, and this is where we need to get to our subjective side.
Absolutely. I was teaching on a workshop in Redditch a little while ago, and when I was there, there was a gentleman who was working, and they just he sort of told the lady who it was that he was aware of. She understood that, and he said, and he was quite specific with a jewelry box that he was aware of. Anyway, and she kept saying, because I don't understand that, because I'm not sure. So I then said to him, right. I went, and as he described it again, I said, right, okay, I get that. And also, I'm sort of linking into the energy as well, just to see. I'm like, that isn't what he might be seeing it. And I said to him, tell me. I went, did your mom have a jewelry box the way that you're describing? He went, yeah, just like it. I went, right. So now this is what the spirit world are doing. I said, what the spirit world have done there is they've taken something that you can recognize out of your spiritual toolbox. And what they've done is right, and they've gone like show, and the communicator, the mother from the spirit world, said, right, talk about the jewelry box, but you're seeing the specific jewelry box that meant something to you. You're not feeling what it meant. I said, because you're analysing that. And I said, now go back and feel it. And he did, and he was like, hang on. He said, I kind of get the sense here. He said, because the one that I'm describing was quite big, but he said, but the one that your mom had was quite a small one. She went, yeah, it was. I went, now tell me, you're not seeing that, are you? And he went, no. I said, how are you getting it? He said, I'm feeling it. I went, exactly. So go with it. So again, it's the intelligence of the spirit world. That's what it is, the intelligence of the spirit world.
Indeed. I mean, that's something we sometimes leave out. So Stefan's just responding, I guess what you're saying, I need to go with the feeling and step back less to work it out. I guess that's for them to do a lot of the time. Yeah, Stefan, as a medium, just shut up, love. All right? just shut up and let the spirit world talk. Okay, you're just there as the facilitator. It's nothing to do with you. It's not your message. It doesn't have to make sense. As long as the recipient understands it, you're doing your job. He's a little sweetie, is Stefan. And look forward to seeing another medium evolve through the process. So absolutely wonderful.
As Billy says all the time, when he teaches, he always just says, he said, listen, it's quite simple. He went, you just stand and you're saying to the spirit world, listen, I'm here, use me. I'm here. Let me be your instrument for your loved one. And again, that's the intent that's set. So that's what he does. And so I think, and I kind of get it. I think, but sometimes you've got to be careful not to be, in a way, too technical with it. Just let it happen. It's almost like when you're, again, my karate analogy from my teaching days of karate as well. I'd see a student, again, that's just become a black belt, and excuse me. And all of a sudden, I'm saying to them, as they're going through the motions of what they're doing, there's almost like a robotic and a rigidness with them. And I'm like, right, now stop, relax. Because when you're tensing up, you're going to use more energy and you're not going to get the technique right. Whereas if you just relax and just let it happen, you'll feel the I'm doing the actions there. You'll feel the intensity of what you're trying to apply and what you're trying to do. Again, I put that practice mentally into mediumship. It's like, right, do you know what? You can't really stress or worry too much about something that hasn't happened yet. Just as long as you've gone in there with the right intentions and the right thoughts, just let it happen. Just let it happen, and it will. It will.
Yeah, there's that proverb, isn't it? Be like the reed, bend with the wind. Don't
absolutely.
be like the trees standing against it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Craig, absolute wonderful evening. Just flown. Absolutely.
It has.
Flown.
I've literally just seen the time. I thought we've only been on about 20 minutes. I've just seen the time.
Normally people talk to me, feel like they've been on for hours. So you're off to Switzerland next weekend.
I am. Yes.
You also have your book out.
I do. I haven't got a copy here actually. Funny enough, yeah. My little book. Yeah. Do you know what? It's again something that I've just always wanted to do, and well, put the intention there, and it's happened, and there it is. So,
yeah. Brilliant.
There are photos, there are pictures in it as well, everybody as well. So yeah.
But very quickly, what was the name for people listening?
It's called Here for a Good Time, Not a Long Time. And the only place you can get it at the moment, we're going to try and look at putting it on Amazon and other places. But for me, the only place you can get it at the moment is via my website or at the event. So if you're ever at any of my events, demonstrations, you can get them, or you can go via my website and order it. So, and I'm home for the next few days. So if anybody wants to order it like sort of now, and I can post it out on Monday, so you'll get it this week. But then I'm away again for a week or so. So yeah, but that's where you can get it. So yeah, please read it, enjoy it. I hope. Brilliant.
And then when you return, you're still touring for a little while. Have you got your Christmas break planned?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So I think my last event is on the 6th, I think it is. So, but yeah, I get back from Switzerland. Then it's my little nephew's first birthday, so we're celebrating that. Had to get that in there. And then we are. Where am I going from there? I'm then back over in the Midlands. I'm in Great Worley, doing a den, which is full, sold out. Then where am I going from? Then I'm going to spend a few days in Torquay. I'm going down to see Billy for a few days before Christmas. And then I get back, and then I'm in somewhere over near Telford. I'm in Rugby, Rugeley, Lichfield, and then somewhere out Tickhill. But yeah, so I've got a handful of dems still, but all the dates on the website. Yeah, be great to see anybody that can. And then I've got about 3 weeks off, and yes, we're going to go and tan. We're going to go and sun ourselves in sunny Gran Canaria just before Christmas, though. First.
Oh, Dad, just don't. Just.
Can't wait.
I've just managed to get to Iceland.
Oh, nice. No, I've just seen that Tim's popped in. I know he's over in Denmark at the minute. So hi to Tim and Jack that are watching. So evening.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Abbott and Mr. Eckhart. There was a post came out today, something about people are very tired. So I just have this sneaky feeling that last night's conversations over there may have gone into the wee small hours.
Love it.
Which is, I just sat here with Tim when he was at Paul, and I could have just sat and listened all night. It was absolutely awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely beautiful. I've just put the link up there, everybody, for Craig's website. So if you want to get tour dates, he is definitely well worth catching when he's out there on tour, either in a theatre or a church, which again, that's just so nice. That is just so nice that he's still involved with the churches. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful night. Have a very early night over in Denmark, Mr. Abbott, Mr. Eckhart. Until we... tomorrow, are you attending a service or taking a service?
Not at a church, I'm not, but I'm going to be so in the village, because this time last year I was in Switzerland, so I missed it last year, but we did a little something. But so I'm going to go into our village, and our village always make an effort round at the cenotaph, and they all get together. So I'm going to go round there and go and pay my my respects that way. So yes, absolutely.
Absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Craig. I really
Pleasure.
appreciate it. And just a pleasure being in your company again. Everybody, have a wonderful night. Look after yourselves. God bless. We will meet again next Saturday night with another wonderful guest. In the meantime, you can catch us live on YouTube and Facebook with our services. We've got a very special Remembrance service tomorrow. The lovely Elaine Bevin from Southampton will be leading that service, but it's also made up of our own church family who are military or ex-military will be taking part of that. And it's just, I'm going to have the box of tissues out, because every year I sit there and go, I'm not going to cry at this. And every year, halfway through, the emotions catch up with me. So yeah, join us tomorrow morning. 10:55 we start, a little bit earlier tomorrow to incorporate the 11 o'clock minute silence. Good night from me. Thank you all. And
good night from me as well. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very, very much.